What's up and welcome to the live stream with Gizmo Slip Tech. Today we've got the Zephyrus G14 with an RTX 5070 Ti, probably the best config when you're balancing portability, performance, and money in a 14-inch gaming laptop, probably. But we're going to do some testing today and see how it performs in 10 different games and a bunch of synthetic tests. We're gonna flex test it. We're gonna do everything, and this is a live stream, and there will be a cut down version of this video put down on the main channel as well at some point. But I'm really excited about this because this was my favorite 14-inch laptop last year, and I think it just got a little bit better this year. So thank you so much for tuning in. There will be timestamps after this live stream is done, but obviously we can't put them in immediately. But soon after, there will be timestamps. So without further ado, let's get into the review, the unboxing review. So here is the box right here. This has the G14 in it. Before we actually unbox this, we're going to be taking a detailed look at what other competitors out there that you might want to consider if you are looking for a 14-inch portable gaming laptop. So here we go. Let's go over here. So here's the different models of the Zephyrus G14. We got the Ryzen AI9 370 or 270, depending on which model you're getting. 16 gigs of soldered RAM in the 5060 model, but all the other models come with 32 gigs of RAM. DDR5X 8000, we've got a 8 to 64 RAM speed test coming up here. You can get a good idea of the performance and the value you're getting out of this. You've got 110 watts of power to the RTX 5070 Ti in here, which is pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's still pretty good because the maximum is 140. And so you get 30 more watts if you go with a more powerful GPU, but in something so thin and light and portable, only 0.6 inches thick, 3.46 pounds. Extremely portable, can fit into basically any backpack that a MacBook Pro 14 can fit into. Very similar in size to that. And you can get this equipped with the lower end 5060 model, and it costs a lot less if you go for a 5060, and the 5060 will still be capable of playing a lot of games. Where the 5070 Ti has 12 gigs VRAM, the 5060 only has 8 gigs VRAM. That's the key difference, and that's going to help a lot with future-proofing down the line. So just checking in, it looks like we are getting some viewers popping in, which is great. Thanks so much for tuning in. Waiting for chat to pop up though. Let's see here, is chat working? I want to make sure the stream is working properly before we continue on. For some reason, I'm not getting chat to show. So let me just pop into the live stream here properly, the new UI. Okay, Almer says, please compare to the, before we continue, please compare to the Zephyrus G16. And Turkigo says, this is reasonable, 5070, 5070 Ti makes the most sense based on your preferred use. Yeah, so I've got a bunch of different ones we're going to compare with here. And so moving into the comparison side of things here, we've got the Flow Z13. This is one of the top competitors, and it's got a monster CPU in here, 16 cores, 32 threads. That's probably the biggest upgrade with the Flow Z13. You also do not have an NVIDIA GPU, so that's a downgrade, but it's all a continuous. These cats. I've got two cats now, and they're going crazy, running around, very distracting, but super adorable. Okay, so the Ryzen AI Max Plus has an iGPU that's basically as powerful as about what a RTX 5060 is capable of, and so you can do lots of gaming on the Flow Z13, but it is a tablet form factor, and some people are going to like the tablet form factor, some people are going to hate that, and you're going to get less ports on this. The screen is going to be smaller. You've got a QHD 180 Hz display here, so faster refresh rate, but it's not OLED. And the price on this is a bit more. So you're getting more CPU performance with the Flow, but less GPU performance when you compare it with the G14 5070 Ti. With the Zephyrus, you can also go for the 5080 version. That's going to cost quite a bit more though at $3169, and it's not going to give you that much more performance. So for value for your money, the 5070 Ti I think is the sweet spot that I'm generally going to be recommending. That or the 5060. 5060 or 5070 Ti are the two biggest, best bang for the buck balance in the Zephyrus G14 lineup. Another one from Asus you can consider in the 14-inch category is the Asus TUF A14 AI7 350, so a little bit lower on the CPU side. 5060 in here with 16 gigs of soldered memory, 1 terabyte, I think it's soldered on here, but I may need to double check that. 1 terabyte SSD and a QHD 165 Hz 100% sRGB display. So a big downgrade in terms of display quality. And the default price is also more for some reason than the G14 5060. So only get the Asus TUF A14 if it's much less than the G14 in my opinion. Otherwise, skip the TUF A14. Razer Blade 14, I would say this is the best competitor to the Zephyrus G14 because it's similar build quality and similar sizing and similar port quality. And it has, I guess, the biggest downside to the Blade 14 is that the best you can get is a 5070. So if you're after, say, a top tier level of performance, then the G14 is just going to crush the Blade 14 because you can get the 5070 Ti and 5080 in it. So it's going to be much more powerful and still cost about the same. Like this is only $100 less than the G14 with the 5070 Ti. So yeah, I would just go G14 instead of Blade 14 personally, unless the Blade 14's on sale. Now, I'd say the build quality is probably just a little bit better on the Blade 14 because of the, I don't know, they just use more rigid metal, I think. Stealth 14 AI from MSI is a great option when it's on sale. The main thing here is that, and this is the 4060 version in particular, there's going to be updated 5060 versions. The main thing with the Stealth 14 AI is that I just don't think it's worth as much money as the G14. So again, pay $200-300 less than the G14, and then you just got yourself a competitive product. And that's the main thing, in my opinion, when you're buying a gaming laptop. You want to get good value for your money. HP Omen Transcend 14. I reviewed the 2024 version of this, and it had very low GPU wattage here, resulting in significantly less performance than what the hardware was capable of putting out. In addition, the ports on this are pretty minimal, 1 USB-C and 2 USB-As. And I think it's got a USB-C on the back and maybe an HDMI on the back, but it's only USB-C charging, so you have to use one of these ports for charging, and that also really hampers your total TDP on the system. So I don't think that the Omen Transcend 14 is worth as much as the G14, just because the power envelope is not nearly as high. And yeah, similar story for the Acer Predator Triton 14. And this is the old model of the Triton 14. I gotta get the new model. There's a newer one that I reviewed at Computex, got hands-on with it at Computex. Let's see if I can find that. Triton 14, probably this one. Yeah, here it is. It's got an aluminum chassis. It's got a haptic trackpad. It's got a lot of high-end features, but the problem is it's only USB-C powered device. So again, it limits your total GPU, CPU performance. In addition, it's a 288V processor, which is only 8 total cores. So your CPU performance on this Triton 14 AI is not nearly as good as the G14. So I would generally skip this one unless you can get it on a really good sale, but it's a really nicely built laptop, really good design. I like the keyboard, I like the screen on it, and it's very sleek, very slim, and it should have exceptionally good battery life because of the 288V processor. So I'm guessing north of 10 hours of battery life, maybe into the 15 to 20 hours of battery life on this one for just general word processing type of stuff. So extremely good battery life. And let's see here. Next up, we have the the Aero 14 from Gigabyte. This one is one you can consider when it's on sale. There is an updated chassis to this as well as an option on the market. And I think the Aero, I think it's the Aero X14 now. Let's see here. 2025. That's not it. Well, there should be a 14-inch one, I think, for the Aero. There might not be. I'm not seeing it, so maybe they didn't update that. But the Aero 14 is one I probably would skip because it's another USB-C powered device. If you're after maximum gaming performance, I did get hands-on with this version of the Aero 14 at CES 2023. MSI Cyborg 14 is actually not terrible if you can find it. The main thing is this one has a 144 hertz, 100% sRGB screen. It's just got a lower power limit GPU to the Cyborg 14. So I think it's only 45 watts. So if you buy this thing, make sure you get it at a big discount because GPU performance is not going to be that good. But the thing is, you might be able to get this for like $700-800. So if you're after a cheap ultra portable that can at least play almost everything, maybe on low to medium settings at least, this will get the job done. And the screen is decent enough because it's 100% sRGB. So it's kind of like the budget 14-inch one that you can consider if you're after something very portable and light. The Asus ROG Ally X, and there's, of course, there's a new Xbox Ally as well, which Asus is currently sending to me, so we'll have a hands-on video with that. This one is just, I put this in here as an example of a handheld, and if you're in the market for something that is ultra portable, can fit in your backpack, and you can still play games, PC games with, it's going to be a good option to consider if you're just wanting something super portable. And you can get the Xbox Ally for as low as, I think, $400 to $500 depending on the sale. Probably $500 is going to be the more likely sale price. But yeah, it's a good option for if you're okay with playing your games on low. Basically, it can play most any game on low. And the other thing is there's a lot of stuttering that's going to go on with the Xbox Ally X because these guys, they're just not as powerful as a dedicated GPU. Using the Z1 Extreme processor, it's good. It's just not nearly as good as, say, even an RTX 4050 or 5050. Those are just going to be significantly better. So I do recommend, in general, to go for a dedicated GPU laptop unless you're okay with playing your games just on very low settings. Okay, so those are the top competitors. Let's talk about the biggest pros and cons to the Zephyrus G14. It's portable, it's ultra light, it's capable of playing just about any game on ultra settings as long as you're willing to fiddle with DLSS and maybe set it down to quality or balanced. Generally speaking, you've got an excellent display. You're talking OLED, 120 hertz. You're talking very good port selection for a 14-inch with 2 USB-A's, 2 USB-C's, and I believe one's a USB 4, and then Windows Hello, unibody chassis, and an excellent typing and touchpad on here. So it's just an all-around excellent 14-inch laptop that's definitely worth considering if you're after lots of performance in an ultra portable form factor. The biggest cons to the Zephyrus G14, since it's a smaller chassis, the chassis heats up, which means the wrist rest is gonna get warm when you're playing games. So if you're a person who's always hot and your wrist rest, you don't want the wrist rest to heat up, the G16 would probably be a better option, or going for one of the other 14-inch laptops that have a plastic chassis. They just don't distribute the heat the same way, so the wrist rest on those, like the MSI Stealth 14, for example, that one, the wrist rest does not get nearly as hot as the G14. So that's probably the biggest con, in my opinion, with the G14. Obviously, the other big con with the G14 is the lower power limit on the GPU. Means that you're not going to get as much performance, particularly with a 5070 Ti or a 5080, when compared to thicker machines that have higher power limits and can run that GPU at a higher wattage level. So those are the pros and cons for the Zephyrus G14. We may run into some more coming up here. Obviously, RAM upgradability is also going to suffer because you have soldered RAM with the G14. SSD upgradability is not going to be nearly as good as bigger and thicker laptops as well. But overall, for most users, the G14 I think will have enough gaming performance, enough CPU performance. It's portable, it's light, it's stylish, and it's very usable. So let's get into the unboxing. So here we go. And let me check chat real quick. All right. I guess it comes down to well-rounded ports, screen, keyboard, RAM, battery, budget. Yeah. Those are pro tips, very valuable info. Love your channel. Thanks, Turkigo. I appreciate you being so active in the chat right now. All right. So here we go. So here's the box. It's going to be shipped in a box like this if you are if you buy this from an official reseller. And then there's going to be two little boxes inside of here. So a little holder. This main box is the one that holds the G14. And then this is the box that holds the power adapter. So let's take a look at the power adapter. This cable is really short. Look at that guy. It's really short. So I don't think, don't expect a long power cable, all right? Here's the power brick. You're talking about a 200 watt. Let's go ahead and give you a nice zoom in here. 200 watts of power, which is great for a 14-inch chassis, because a lot of the 14-inch laptops we just looked at used USB-C, which only gives you like 130 watts typically, or maybe even 110 watts of power for most of those laptops. So here's the G14. Let's go ahead and do our top down. We got a nice etched Zephyrus logo there, or like I guess that's the ROG logo. Looks really sick. If we open this up, you can see we've got plastic wrap around this, and it's the white version. There is a gray version and a white version of this laptop. I really like the white version. It's really, really good. And I've got you can see we're actually live streaming right now on the Zephyrus G16 white version. And this is the 5070 Ti. So hopefully the live stream goes smooth today. First time live streaming with this laptop. And we may end up running into some technical difficulties, but we'll see. All right, so let's go ahead and take this out. And you can see the plastic wrap right here. We can go ahead and take the laptop out of there. And this thing has been, I've been setting it up and testing it the last couple weeks, so it actually has been used a decent amount already before this live stream happened. So we got some dust on here. Nothing that a little spit shine can't fix. All right, so let's open this guy up. All right, so normally this is right here. I'll take this off, put it right there. And you can see the chassis is just gorgeous. Nice keyboard spacing. I believe they improved the keyboard spacing on the 2025 version. The keycaps are a little wider, allowing you to hit those keys a little bit easier. And I really like the touchpad here. It's like edge-to-edge touchpad, which makes it a very large touchpad for a 14-inch. But when you put this next to the G16, you can see the G16 touchpad is quite a bit larger. And I believe the touchpad, I believe the keyboard is also just a little bit bigger on the G16. Not much, but like just a few of the keys, like the tilde key here, I think is a little wider, stuff like that. Now we have some excellent speakers in here. We're doing a speaker test as well. Let me put this to the side. And let's take a look at what's inside the box. Got the papers here. So first one, G series gaming notebook. This is your basic how-to charge your notebook, and then lift it up and turn it on. Boom. All right, easy. This gives you some information on the ports and I/O. So if you want to take a detailed look at this, you can pause the stream and check this if you'd like. You can see there's up to 40 gigabits on the USB-C. For the USB-C Type 4 or USB 4 Type C. Again, reminding you to charge your notebook before you turn it on, because it won't really turn on the first time you get it unless you plug it in. All right, let's see here. Safety precautions for your notebook. Just mainly talking about the battery right there. Saying that Asus repair tech should do any work on the battery. Asus product support is paired up with Best Buy Geek Squad. So if you need to work on the warranty, you can go directly through Best Buy on this, which is great if you're in America. Here's the warranty card. We open this up. You can see that I believe we have a 12-month warranty on this. And I'm not sure, but I think you might be able to get an extended warranty through the MyASUS app inside of Windows. Got your card here. You can send this in or just register it online inside of the Windows when you get the laptop set up. When you're setting it up inside of Windows, there'll be a little prompt for you to set up your warranty or extended warranty. All right, so total length on this power adapter is just not that long. So that's one downside, I think, especially since it's a portable laptop designed to be carried everywhere. I wish they would include a longer cable from the wall to the charger. This cable going from the charger to the laptop is a reasonable length. Probably about 4.5 feet for that cable, but this cable is only about 3 feet from the wall to the charging brick. And so, for example, if it's up here on the table, I can just barely reach a power strip if it's directly down below, which is not great. I think I much prefer to have a cable be about 6 feet long from the wall to the charging brick. All right, let's see here. What is next? So we've got our streaming objectives over here on the left. Laptop unboxing, flex test, and weight test is next. So let's start with the flex test. So we've got this overhead cam. Let's zoom in here. I can give you 2 angles on the flex test if you guys would like. So we'll start on the right side here. No flex, a little bit of flex, just barely. No flex. No flex, but I did hear a creak. The first time I pressed on it, I heard a creak. But no creak since then. No flex, no flex, no flex all the way up this side. No flex along the top. That's incredible. No flex on the right side either. Let's go through the middle. Just a tiny bit of flex on the keyboard. Not hardly any at all. Wow. I feel like Asus may have upgraded the rigidity on this machine, because that is crazy how little flex this thing has. It's a very densely packed machine for sure. So let me give you a side angle now with the flex test. So you can see how little it's flexing. It's basically not flexing at all. I'm pushing really hard. It's basically just pushing down on the rubber underneath it. Even the keyboard and spacebar, that has just a tiny bit of flex. And almost all laptops definitely flex more than this one. So very impressive. Asus, you definitely managed to make it more rigid, I think, than last year. So that's great. All right, so let's get our weight scale out here. Hopefully, oh no. Okay, let's see. We're gonna need to charge the weight scale a little bit here. Thankfully, it's USB-C, so it should charge. Should charge very easily. But we might want to just give that a few minutes to charge up. All right, so we can go ahead and remove the bottom while the weight scale is charging. So starting out, we're gonna need, looks like T6 or maybe T5 screwdriver. No flex, it flexes on us. Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's see if the T6 fits. T6 is too big, let's go for T5. I don't think this, is this T4? This is T. Okay, this is the T6. I must have been using a little bigger. Yeah, so T6 Torx screwdriver for these screws. We're gonna, I believe this one in the bottom right corner is a pop-up screw, so you're gonna want to do that one last. And I believe there's screws underneath these little rubber feet, which I really wish Asus would stop doing. Personally. Just the rubber feet in general can be kind of annoying to deal with. Would also be cool if it has a toolless approach, like the big models. That would be neat. Yeah, that would be really cool. But, you know, they made this as compact as possible. And I think adding toolless support would probably make it a little bit less compact, I think. Or maybe sacrifice the rigidity a little bit, given how small it is. I don't know. That would be really cool engineering. If they can make it a toolless experience to open up like the Scar 16 and 18, that would be, like, that would actually be really amazing if they could do that. Okay. All right, so pop-up screw last. And yes, it is a pop-up screw. So you can see how it raised the edge of the laptop there. So now we can take our pry tool and just go right along the edges here. And I'm gonna lift it up. I always prefer to hold the laptop when I'm doing this part. So it's just a little easier to make sure we get all the little latches up. And I can see in there to make sure that the pry tool is at just the right spot. You should hear those little plastic popping. And there, it's free. So very easy to remove. That took only, you know, what was that, 15 seconds or something of actual effort to take that off. And let's go ahead and take a look at the top down now. All right, so here is the cooling system for the 5070 Ti version. I believe the 5080 will have a similar cooling system. The 5060 and 5070 might have slightly different cooling system setup that also allows the device to be just a little bit thinner. I think it's like 1/10 of an inch thinner in the, and just a tiny bit lighter for the 5060 and 5070. And I don't know if they'll do a 5050 version of this machine or not, but yeah, the 5070 Ti and 5080 just have a slightly beefier cooling system, allowing it to go to a slightly higher wattage, like 10 more watts or something like that. So let's evaluate the bottom. I'm seeing one M.2 slot right here. So you only have one SSD slot, not two. You have your Wi-Fi card here. And let's take a look at that Wi-Fi card up close. There it is. We're looking at the MediaTek MT79 25B22M Wi-Fi card. So, oh, I'm doing the wrong one. There we go. All right. So there's the Wi-Fi card. If you need to get a replacement or you want to replace it based on the type it is. So let's go back to the top down. I can give you a kind of a close-up view of everything. The fan, heat pipes, ports, everything's densely packed on this board. It's really nice to see Asus's design choices here being so clean and maximizing the space on this device to put as many features into a 14-inch laptop as possible, including the speakers. These speakers are beefy and loud and really high quality. So really, really love the speakers on this laptop, which hopefully you'll be able to hear later here in the live stream. We'll do a speaker test soon. Let's see, I see this camera is not hitting my face very good. Let me just rotate that over. Okay. All right, so evaluating the bottom, continuing on, we've got our two big heat pipes coming through here, and very fat for this main pipe, which is good. We've got extending heat pipes to go over the VRMs and the other MOSFETs here, and this is going to help keep the chipset cool and keep everything operating cool. So the battery itself is a 73 watt-hour battery, which is not the biggest that you can put in a laptop. 99 watt-hours is going to be the largest. But we also have a very power-efficient AMD CPU in here. I believe the AMD CPU will be over here. The 5070 Ti would be over here. And very interesting tiny blade fans here. Like, these are very efficient air movers for their size, given that, you know, we're getting a pretty good shared TDP for a 14-inch laptop in this laptop itself. So speakers here, Wi-Fi here, cooling, shared cooling pipes. So the nice thing about the shared design here is that both the CPU and GPU can maximize the power output of both fans. So if you're focused on a GPU-bound game or a CPU-bound game or a CPU-only focused task, you can use the whole cooling system for either the GPU or the CPU, which is a great design and the way I think laptops should be designed. So overall, I love the interior. It's like a work of art. Great job, Asus, on that. Let's go ahead and put it back together. So to put it back together, line everything up very carefully and then start popping the chassis back together. You know, you can hold this in your hand and squeeze gently like this as well as you go around. And make sure all those little plastic holders are popped back together. And I believe we are snug again now. And once you're snug, I recommend popping this or screwing in the pop-up screw first as the first one to go in, so it's not keeping the laptop from being fully sealed as you button it back up. No vapor chamber. That's true, Baka, but I don't think that you really have to have a vapor chamber. And depending on the design, it may not actually benefit you much switching to a vapor chamber. Um, because I mean, if you think about it, heat pipes are like, they're basically like a vapor chamber in a tube. So especially when everything's in a shared heat pipe design, that's going to be very similar performance to what a vapor chamber can do. I mean, I think theoretically a vapor chamber might give you like 10 more watts of power throughput for the size of the device, but it would also make the device cost more. So, and some people, money is no object, but other people would rather have a device cost, $100 to $200 less. I don't know. I'm sure, in the past, Asus has used vapor chambers before, and so I'm sure they pursued that as an option, and they went for the heat pipes. I'd be curious to know why they decided to go for heat pipes, but I don't think heat pipes are bad by any means. Many of the top laptops are using heat pipes, and they're doing great. So, but I will say for sure, a vapor chamber is cooler to say you have a vapor chamber in your laptop, but yeah, the 5070 Ti version definitely does not have a vapor chamber. All right, one more screw and we're done here. Very good. Flipping it back over. Our weight scale is good to go now, so let's go ahead and weigh this thing and see how much it weighs now. All right. Let me just make this a little bit brighter. All right, and we'll position this here. There we go. There we go, and it's saying the battery is low. We know the battery is low. We're charging you for a reason. You can do a quick measurement, right? 55.4 ounces. Let's see 55.4 ounces. In pounds. That's 3.46 pounds. That's the exact same weight that Asus claims, which is good. And let's go ahead and see how much the power brick adds if we can. $18.95 ounces for the power brick. All right, so calculator. $55.4 plus 18.9, 74.3 ounces. 74.3 ounces, 4.64 pounds total carry weight. That's an extremely light RTX 5070 Ti. Let's go ahead and do our port evaluation, and then we'll do our BIOS evaluation next. Let me pull up the port technical specs so I can make sure that we have everything exactly correct. All right, so USB-A's are 3.2 Gen 2. Then we have one USB 3.2 Gen 2 and one USB-C 4 and a micro card reader that's UHS 2 support, which just means it's going to be super fast. All right, so taking a look at the ports here. All right, so here's our 2-in-1 headphone combo port, USB-A 3.2 Gen 2, and this is a 10 gigabit. It says 10 gigabit right there. It gets the speed. Here's our USB 4 with 40 gigabit speed. So very nice that they give you the actual speeds on the port itself so you don't plug into the wrong one. HDMI right here, 2.1. Then we have our reversible Asus power adapter port. And so you can plug it in one way or flip it upside down and plug it in the other way. This has just a little bit of wiggle to it. I wish it did not have the wiggle. On the right side here, we have our USB, or I guess on the right side, we have a micro SD card reader with UHS 2 support, another USB-A 3.2 Gen 2 with 10 gigabits, and then this is a USB-C 3.2, and that is going to be Type-C with DisplayPort, power delivery, and G-Sync. So this one on the right connects directly to the NVIDIA GPU. This one on the left connects directly to the AMD CPU and integrated GPU. So if you're on battery mode and you're using Optimus to use the integrated GPU, you can do a presentation to a projector using this USB-C without killing your battery very quickly. So that's important to know how the ports work on your laptop. There's no ports on the front or back sides of the laptop. All right, let me go ahead and get the sucker plugged in, and let's load into the BIOS and do a BIOS evaluation. Okay, there we go. Cha-cha. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. We'll rotate this. Let's flip this up. Bring this up to right here. Beautiful, beautiful. I need to tighten this. There we go. There we go. Marvelous. Delete and F2 should get us into the BIOS. Let's see. There we are. We are in the BIOS now. Let's reduce the brightness a little bit. There we go. Might need to reduce the brightness a little bit more. There we go. All right. Sweet. So, Venus VIP says, hello, I'm planning to buy the Scar 18 with 5090. Can you tell me one word how useful it will be for gaming? Super fantastical for gaming. No, it should be very, 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 very good for gaming. Should run everything great. So good luck on your purchase. What's up, Amp? Baka says, my view on this is if you're going to be premium, might as well go all out. Don't be cheap on cooler. Yeah, but well, yeah, I know what you mean, Baka. I know what you mean. But I think the heat pipes will do a good enough job. We'll see. Let's reserve judgment until we actually get into testing. All right, so you can see all our specs here. We've got the Ryzen AI 9 HX370 with the Radeon 890M, which is actually a really good integrated GPU. You can do quite a bit of gaming with the 890M on here in battery mode. So you can do 2.5 hours of gaming on the integrated graphics, maybe 3 hours of gaming on some lighter weight titles. 32 gigs of integrated LPDDR5X memory at 8,000 mega transfers. Again, that's the onboard graphics. There's our serial number. 100% battery right here, our CPU fans. We can press F7 to go to advanced mode, and this is going to let us do more things. I don't think it's going to let us do much. But if we needed to roll back our BIOS for whatever reason or upgrade it manually, this is where you do Easy Flash Utility to upgrade the BIOS. Asus Cloud Recovery if you want to back up to the cloud. Run System Diagnostics. Display mode is, I'm going to set to DGPU only. SMT control if you want to disable the hyperthreading. I don't think you'd have any reason to really do that. NVMe and SATA configurations. You can just mess with a few different settings in here. There's really not much at all in the BIOS to do. I mean, there's not much here. So just know that other laptops are going to give you more options, particularly the more advanced, larger laptops that might have RAM timings, like in, say, the XMG Neo series, or other, even things like setting the battery conservation level. Sometimes that's in the BIOS, but in the this laptop, it is not. It's in Windows. So, and I think that's actually better. Being able to control those advanced features from within Windows rather than having to go to the BIOS to set them up. That's just better. So, okay, so let's go ahead and get into Windows now. We're going to do our webcam testing with Windows Hello, then keyboard and touchpad evaluation, software evaluation. Then we'll go into all the testing data and go into our game testing. So very exciting. Can you tell me the difference in text clarity for PPI G14 compared to G16 190? I don't think that either of them are a problem, you know. So there's Windows Hello. Windows Hello has worked really well for me on this laptop with pretty much no issues. It's basically had flawless Windows Hello usage. My G16, for some reason, it is not working right now. The face, I need to probably redo the face data or something. I don't know. I had a lot of crashing on the G16 until I got to the latest driver updates. So, or actually, I had to roll back the drivers to an older driver, and that fixed my crashing on the G16. The G14 has not had any crashing for me. It's been very reliable and very, very usable without any major issues. Let's get the mouse plugged in. There we go. And I see that I need to roll this up smaller, put it in here. There we go. Let's just make it like that. I don't know. I think that's a good spot to put it. I don't know. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and get into our webcam. So let's open the camera up. All right. So there's the webcam itself. Let's see here. It looks pretty good. You can see individual hairs in my beard very easily, which is great, but I think the image is very sharpened because it's not that high of an actual resolution, resulting in mediocre detail on the fine details. You can easily read the Lumix here and the GH5 right there, so that's good. As far as colors go, seems very realistic and very bright. We've got rotating RGB lights behind me. Rocky decided to join us. What's up, dude? Hey, bud. The assistant Rocky being a good little boy. He's probably going to want to sit on the laptop here any moment. Let's go ahead and do a little typing. All right, so I'm typing and talking. Let me just do a new clip. What's up? So this is me doing a quick audio test talking to the laptop, and let's see how well the mic sounds. And I'm going to do typing now and talking at the same time, and we'll see how good the laptop sounds. All right, and you might have Rocky rubbing himself on the laptop screen as well. Here, buddy, I need you to not do that for a second, okay? Oh my gosh, come here, bud. Not the right time, little guy. Yeah. Rocky's gotten a lot bigger, if you can't tell, compared to when I first got him. Okay, so I'm going to type and talk at the same time now without Rocky rubbing himself on the laptop. Yes, good boy. Okay. All right, and let's take a couple photos. All right. So here's the photo results. And I'd say the photo results are maybe a little bit better than the video. The video kind of suffering from over sharpening a little bit. Oh my gosh, what a creepy face. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and hear the audio. What's up? So this is me doing a quick audio test talking to the laptop, and let's see how well the mic sounds. And I'm going to do typing now and talking at the same time, and we'll see how good the laptop sounds. All right, and you might have Rocky rubbing himself on the laptop screen as well. Here, buddy, I need you to not do that for a second, okay? Oh my gosh, come here, bud. Not the right time, little guy. Yeah. Rocky's gotten a lot bigger, if you can't tell, compared to when I first got him. Okay, so I'm going to type and talk at the same time now without Rocky rubbing himself on the laptop. Okay, mic quality was excellent. Video quality was pretty good. I would say it was I'd say it could still get better in terms of resolution, but colors and image quality was pretty on point. I'd say webcam was like an 8. Audio quality was like an 8, maybe an 8.5 for a laptop, standard mic. Very, very clear audio. I like it. And as far as Windows Hello goes, let's go ahead and do a couple tests here. Let's see, can we do face? Yeah, there we go. You can see Windows Hello is working very fast and very reliably for me, and that's really, really great. So it has an IR sensor up here as well as a regular webcam. Keyboard and touchpad. So let's go top down for this. So keyboard feels great with spacing that is excellent and decent key travel. The backlight on the keyboard can still be better. Like it's kind of inconsistent to where when you're in daytime and you look at it, it looks kind of uneven for the letters and the text, especially the words like shift, caps lock, tab. It's kind of hard to read them sometimes when the light is on. And you take that away, you can more easily read it when the backlight is not on. So I still think they need to work on the backlight and get that to be better. When the laptop is actually in a dark environment, it looks good enough when it's in a dark environment to easily read everything. Just because, you know, the backlight fills up a bit better when it's in that dark environment. Okay, so let's talk keyboard functionality. So if you press FN plus escape now, you can get FN lock so that it switches all the key functions for F1 through 12. And let's talk actual key functions itself. F1 here is the mute, and then you have volume up and down, mic mute, and the ROG Armory crate button right here. The keyboard brightness down, keyboard brightness up, Aura, which will switch between different lighting modes. So you can, if I press this and this, I can press this and it'll change what the light mode will be. There's like 4 or 5 different modes. Color cycle is cool, and I think static white is cool. Those are the 2 I'd recommend mainly. F5 is fan profile. F6 is your snipping tool, so you can take a screenshot of something. F7 and F8 are screen brightness up and down. F9 is your monitor key. F10 is your touchpad key. F11 is your sleep button. F12 is your airplane mode. And those are the key buttons here. You have the Copilot button on the right next to the Alt, and then you have page up, page down, home, and end when you pair it up with the FN key. So lots of keyboard functionality for a small keyboard. You also have a caps lock light up light here, though it's not particularly bright when it's lighting up, so I can barely tell that it's on when it's on, but it's there, which is cool to have. So overall, I love the keyboard for a 14-inch laptop. You also have these big speaker grills on the right and left side of the keyboard, which is great. And we'll do a speaker test here in a moment, and you'll see how loud they are. Okay, so touchpad as well. So here's the touchpad. It's a glass trackpad, and it is easy to use. It's very clickable. I've had no issues with it at all. It's been very precise. I do think the click, in theory, could be improved through a haptic trackpad that's still like the holy grail, like on the MacBook Pro series. But for a non-haptic trackpad, it's excellent, and it's hard to get better than this trackpad in a 14-inch laptop. I know a 16-inch laptop, the trackpad sometimes is a little bit bigger. That's the only thing, but this one's big enough. It's bigger than what trackpads used to be on bigger laptops. So I really like the trackpad, really like the keyboard, especially for a 14-inch laptop. All right, let's talk software. How do you control this laptop? All of that. Let's get this lined up. Good, good, good. Okay, so let's go to the screen here. All right, so you have two primary launch tools or control tools for the laptop. You have Armory Crate and you have MyASUS. Now, MyASUS is where you handle your warranty, does BIOS updates through here. Okay, well, I just checked this right before the live stream. Okay, MyASUS itself needs to be updated to the latest version. But yeah, we can check for updates and say we're all up to date on, like, say, the BIOS in here. So you can update the BIOS on this laptop through Windows updates or through the MyASUS software. And then inside of the Armory Crate application, there's also an update center in here. And so you can update things like the Aura lighting, Windows Dynamic Lighting plugin. Hey, buddy. I don't know what to do with you. I can't have you walking on the laptop, or otherwise you might shut down the live stream. Okay. So you can check for updates in here, and this will update the secondary software features of the laptop itself. So very useful and important to know where you can update these. And then, of course, you also have the Windows updates. And you can also get BIOS updates and Windows updates through here. There's a preview update in here. We're not going to download that. But the nice thing about updating through the BIOS on this is that it's quick, it's easy, and it's pretty much all automatic. You just got to restart the machine, and it'll automatically install the BIOS update. I'd say it's the holy grail for BIOS updates in terms of reliability and usability for the average user. So Armory Crate on many devices gets a lot of complaints. But on laptops, Armory Crate is pretty good. There's also G-Helper as an alternative if you don't like Armory Crate. So G-Helper is a application that you can use basically as a wholesale replacement of Armory Crate to control fans, performance, stuff like that. So I've heard good things about G-Helper. I still haven't used it. I plan on using it on the G16 for my long-term review here soon, which I'm currently working on as one of my long-term reviews that I'm working on in the background, basically. So the home page here lets you see some key information about your laptop, as well as switch the power performance modes. So there's 4 main modes: silent, performance, turbo, and manual. And you can also edit the manual mode. You can set the power limit up to 80 watts on the CPU. The GPU you can set with an overclock up to 100 to 150 for the clock and memory, which is really not that much of an overclock. Then you have dynamic boost, which you can set up to 25, and you have your base level boost as well. So this one can actually go, in theory, up to 120 watts. You can also set a fan curve for the right and left fans. your CPU fan and your GPU fan, but as we saw, the heat pipe system is a shared fan system. And so, yeah, when you're in manual mode, if you want to have the best possible temperatures, you can set all these up. You can also set manual mode to be like a nice blend of performance and power and thermals with like a medium fan mode, and you can set this down to like say 85 with no dynamic boost, let's say, I don't know, and then reduce these. So basically the fans don't have to blow as hard to keep everything cool. And I'd say this is mainly useful in the scenario where you're going to be playing older games that can easily run at high frames. And that's when I would use that type of setting in manual mode. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to set it to turbo mode for now because I don't want the fans to be running at super loud volume. Okay, so Armory Crate itself had a little bit of a downgrade in the sense that there's now this devices tab, then you have to click on here and you have to wait for it to load, and then you can access a lot of the secondary settings. I really wish all these settings were accessible on the home page like it was last year. We'll see if they change it, I don't know, probably will not. But I definitely think that the UI could be improved for Armory Crate. You can disable the boot up sound right here, which, if you're in a library and that goes off, it could be a little embarrassing. Panel power saver will switch you to 60 Hz refresh rate when you're in battery mode. FN lock and Windows key disable. So if you're pressing the Windows key on accident and disrupting your gameplay, you can disable the Windows key. Power mode synchronization, I usually leave that on to synchronize Windows power modes with your Armory Crate performance mode. You can disable your touchpad right here. You also have modern standby assist, which will put your system into fully hibernating to reduce battery. If you're in sleep mode for a while, it'll just transition to hibernate mode to protect your battery life. Rocky is climbing my chair right now. Hey, buddy, what's going on? Am I not paying enough attention to you right now? Oh my gosh. You are adorable. Yeah? Come here. Come here. I'm going to set you down right here. Right on the table. Come here. Up here. There you go. Okay. There. Now he can get some cuddles, and we can continue evaluating the software here. Okay. All right. So you can free up memory. You can also assign certain amounts of memory to the iGPU, up to 8 gigs for VRAM, which is cool. You have performance modes, standard, eco, optimized, and ultimate. Ultimate sets you into dedicated GPU only mode with no advanced Optimus. Standard is advanced Optimus. Eco mode means that you will switch into iGPU only. And optimized automatically switches to the discrete GPU for demanding applications and integrated for less demanding applications. So one thing I like about this interface is that you can stop all of the extra applications that are currently using the NVIDIA GPU, allowing you to switch between integrated graphics and the NVIDIA graphics card more easily. Sometimes it can be a real pain switching into integrated graphics mode. So yeah. Now, customizable hotkeys. So you can change this if you want to switch to turning the speakers on and off, mute, keyboard backlight brightness. There's a few different things. Oh, actually, there's more if you scroll up and down. Oh, you can have it pause, play, and do other stuff too. Enter sleep mode. Obviously, I think having it pause, play would be useful instead of having mic mute, maybe. I don't know. All right, there's also the lighting. This is for the keyboard backlight. So you can set the keyboard backlight to be brighter or less bright. You can change the color manually if you want the static color to be something other than white. You can make it red, blue, etc. I just like the way the white looks. Breathing, you can set it to switch between 2 different colors. Strobing, you can have it switch between activating and deactivating one color. And of course, color cycle allows you to switch between different, just it cycles the colors. Slash lighting is the lighting strip on the back of the laptop, which if I turn this around, you can see it's pretty much always in this mode by default. About to knock this over. So there you can see the slash lighting on the laptop. It looks pretty cool, all right? I'm not gonna lie, it looks cool. It's nice having something that's active on the back of the laptop, but it's nothing amazing. I think the anime matrix they used to have on the G14 was way cooler. I don't think they'll bring that back because they're trying to make this thing as portable as possible, but you got some cool options here, at least in terms of lighting. Now, one thing I don't like about the slash lighting is that it's on by default when the laptop is asleep. So, you know, when you're sleeping, if you sleep in the same room as the laptop, that thing's going to be pulsing and flashing at you, lighting up your room all night long, and that may inhibit your sleep for some people. So there's a few different animations you can set for the slash lighting. You can also have it be static, dark, off. I'll just set it to off for now. So yeah, those are all of the key things about the laptop software in terms of controlling it. And like I said, G-Helper is an alternative software for controlling the laptop that I think is worth exploring, especially if Armory Crate is giving you any kind of issue. Okay, let's go to here. I believe we had some... I'm pretty sure this did have Norton. I think it had McAfee. I don't think I got any screenshots of shame on here, but I'm pretty sure I removed it as soon as I loaded it up. So normally I do a screenshots of shame right now, but I didn't get any screenshots of shame on this laptop for this one, but it does normally come with an antivirus. And that's the main thing I would recommend removing for performance, so it doesn't interrupt your gameplay, and et cetera, okay? Let's talk brightness and color gamut. So I did a Spider 5 test with the laptop's display, and these are the results. At 0% brightness, we had 4.2 nits, which is very, very good. Very, very low. So if you need to use this in a dark environment, it's going to be excellent. And there's a nice range to it, up to 371.9 nits or 372 nits brightness with 371,000 to 1 contrast ratio, which is excellent. The brightness I do think could be better, but because this is an OLED display, it looks great, okay? It looks extremely usable, very vibrant, but there are brighter OLED displays out there, like the Legion Pro 7i, I think was pushing closer to 500 nits. For example, but most OLED displays cap out around 400 nits brightness. At least when you're doing like these overall brightness tests. Like the nice thing about OLED is that when you don't have very many white objects on the screen, it can just get very peaky bright. And the blacks look crazy black. So they look like super contrasty, everything pops, the color looks great. And in terms of actual color gamut, on this laptop, we got over 100% sRGB, 92% Adobe, and 89% of the P3. But keep in mind that my color gamut checker actually is about 7 to 8% below average for like when compared to other color gamut checkers. So the Adobe RGB is closer to 99%. P3 color gamut is closer to 96% when compared to other color checkers. So overall, very good color, very vibrant display, very usable. Now keep in mind that this is also a glossy screen, but it has an anti-reflective coating to it. So there are lights over there that you can see bouncing off the screen here, but you can barely see them, and particularly when it's at 100% brightness. If we drop the brightness down to a lower amount, you can see the lights a bit more, but this screen has an Asus anti-reflective, anti-glare coating basically that reduces how much reflections hit your eyes. And that's something that I really wish the Lenovo Legion Pro 7i had on it because it did not have that. and it is super, super reflective compared to this, which can really be a bummer when you're in certain environments. So, okay, let's go to bloom test. So let's see. How much bloom this has on it. This has an OLED screen, so it's going to be very, very low bloom, but there's going to be some. And wow, you can see kind of the dust buildup. I can't even see that dust buildup at all with my naked eye. So let me wipe this a little bit with a microfiber. All right, so you can see just a little bit of bloom around the mouse. It's barely visible to my naked eye, but it is visible just a little bit. So it's something to keep in mind. So there's going to be some bloom on this OLED display, but it's not nearly as bad as mini LED displays, and it's quite good. And the screen itself looks completely dark except for the mouse right there, and just a little bit of bloom around that mouse. So I'd say the bloom is very, very tolerable compared to some screen technology that's being used right now in laptops. Okay. 8 to 64 RAM speed test and Blender benchmarks. Let's see, do I have the results for the Blender benchmark? I do. Okay, so let's go to the 8 to 64 RAM speed test. All right, so this is some above average, quite good RAM speed actually. 89K for the read, 110 for the write, and 84 for the copy. Latency though, 107 is, I'd say this is more just average, but in terms of speed, the write here is exceptionally fast. 110 is far above average. You can see the L1, L2, L3 cache speeds as well. And you can see that we have 4 C cores on the CPU, 8 compact cores. So 4 big fat cores, 8 smaller cores, 12 cores, 24 threads on this CPU, and LPDDR5 at 4,000, but then you double this to get the 8,000, and you can see the command rate here is command rate 1, which is not, I think command rate 2 I think is better, but also the RAM timings right there are also quite tight. Let's do CrystalDiskMark. So here you can see our built-in SSD is a 1 terabyte drive, and it's quite fast, 6.5K for the read, 5.8K for the write. I do think you can get faster drives out there. And I believe this is a PCIe Gen 4 drive. I don't think Gen 5 is supported with the system. Let's do the Blender benchmark. So first the AMD CPU gets 140, 97, and 79, which is just not that great. If we do the NVIDIA though, holy smokes, you get 2,400, 1,369 for Junk Shop, 1,256 for Classroom, and these are going to be excellent overall performance numbers for a 14-inch portable laptop, allowing you to do 3D rendering and editing and everything on the go with a 14-inch gaming laptop. Let's do the Cinebench R23. This is 9 minutes into the test, meaning we have a solid thermal evaluation here. How much wattage can this laptop handle? CPU package power is at 80 watts, and it averaged 78.9 watts for the entire test duration, which means it hit the target 80 watts pretty much almost exactly. About 1 watt lower, which makes sense because there's slight pauses in between each run. Then we have temperatures are not thermal throttling. Our average is 89.5 degrees with max fans, and our current temperature is 92.8 degrees. It's close to thermal throttle. I believe thermal throttle in this situation would be 95 or potentially 100 degrees Celsius. But we're not thermal throttling, so that means the CPU cores are going to be rocketed up there to their high peak performance potentials, which is great to see. Cinebench R23 10-minute test, we got 23,618, which is obviously exceptionally good for a 14-inch laptop. Single core, 2,039. Cinebench R24, 1255 for our multi, 118 for our single core, and this is another 10-minute test for Cinebench R24. Port Royale, 49 FPS with 10,610 for our overall score for Port Royale, which is good. Steel Nomad, we have 37 average FPS, and I'm not sure exactly what a higher power 5070 Ti would do off the top of my head, but I'm guessing closer to like 40, 45 in that range, depending on the 5070 Ti. So you're getting a little bit less performance on here, but this is obviously still very good Steel Nomad performance. Time Spy, we got 15,820 with a CPU score of 10,244. So our graphics score at this level, it means QHD gaming is going to be very reachable for the vast majority of games, particularly if you play with DLSS on quality or balanced mode, depending on how demanding the game is. You're pretty much going to be able to run, I think, pretty much almost all the games on ultra settings, with a couple of exceptions for the most demanding games out there. Okay, so that's all our initial pre-done benchmarks, I believe. Now we're going to do our speaker test and fan noise testing. Let me just double check. Let me double check that everything is going well. They kind of made the software experience more unified for any system handhelds, laptops. Yeah, you're talking about Armory Crate, I think, Turkey Go, that's true. Samoski says, hello, if I put two 2 terabyte 990 Pros in the G16, will it be fine without thermal pads, or do I need to add some? Maybe you'll need to add a thermal pad if you're running into severe thermal throttling on your SSDs, if you're doing constant running, but generally speaking, I don't usually add much for thermal pads on my SSDs. Most of the time, I'm not doing intensive SSD work though, right? Like, I'm not doing like tons of data compiling or databasing or anything like that. I'm just basically writing a live stream or occasionally video editing, which is not that data intensive. It's like data intensive for bursts. So, but you probably, I mean, my double-sided 8 terabyte SSD just barely fits in the Zephyrus G16. Like, and it's just bent just a tiny little bit. Like, you can see the bend is just like a couple degrees bend in the SSD, which is not great. So in general, I'd probably recommend single-sided SSDs for the Zephyrus G16. View some HDR content on this. It's breathtaking. I believe you, but we got to keep moving forward in the live stream. Okay, so speaker test is next. Let's see how loud and vibrant these speakers are. I do think I should upgrade the music to maybe something else, something funner. I don't know, at some point here, but I got to do some research and find some new music. The main reason I picked the 3 songs that I picked is because they have a nice range of types of music that are being used. And so it makes it so that it's easy to hear the bass, hear vocals, and hear what more acoustic music sounds like very quickly and easily. So that's the reason why I picked the music that I did pick. Okay. So, hey buddy, I don't know what to do with you. I'm holding a cat, but I need 2 hands. Hey. Can you take him? Sorry. His toy is behind your pillow, under your pillow. If you want to get him over there. All right. So let me turn off the fan real quick in the room so we can get better audio tests. right, we should have dual channel audio now. With two of these, I'm going to hold this up right next to the speaker. Let's see here. And I'm going to turn off my air conditioner too so I can get, just for a few minutes here, get better audio sound quality. All right, and I'm also going to reduce the fan profile on the Zephyrus G14, so hopefully that's also quieter. Nice. Okay. Really quick, you need to know about Dolby Access. This is a program that you can use to tweak the sound on your Zephyrus G14. So there's different sound profiles. You can make your own custom EQ in here if you'd like. I recommend using dynamic as a general all use that works pretty well. Music is also a good choice if you want to do more bass focus. But we're going to do dynamic for the test today. And here we go. So baseline decibels around 43. Let's go ahead and start up. Okay, so speakers are very good, but the total volume is not as loud as I was thinking. I don't know. I'm going to keep playing this for a moment and just listen to a couple of different EQ options in here. Yeah, I definitely need to get some better music to use for this, but overall, you got some nice punchy bass feeling to the sound. I feel like the mids and highs can definitely be clearer, and the overall volume can still be louder. But it's still very good speakers for a 14-inch laptop. All right, Faded Aeon Half-Life is next. So those mids and highs sound great, but the overall volume doesn't seem as loud as it could be. Let me try playing from the Zephyrus G14 for comparison. Yeah, so the G16 is quite a bit louder. Let's do last song, Deuce Williams, La La Love You Like, one more time here. And
I love, I love, I love, I love, I love you like la 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 la. I love you like la 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 la. I love.
yeah, so the G14 sounds very similar. It's just lower volume compared to the G16. That's probably the main thing I would say. Overall, speakers for a 14-inch laptop are just excellent. Let me just summarize this better here and put this away real quick. All right. So for a 14-inch laptop, speakers are like A+. It can still get better. They can still get louder. Honestly, it seems like there's some setting. I saw that Dolby Access needed to be updated. Maybe the Dolby Access needs to be updated and then it would be louder. I don't know. But that was the one thing I would say is that it felt like the 2024 version that I tested was louder last time I tested it. Okay, so we're gonna update this and then I'll test it one more time just to make sure because it seems like it's underperforming compared to my expectations. Obviously, you could use some kind of software to artificially boost the volume as well. That's definitely an option to consider, but okay, let's see if the updated Dolby Access helps at all. All right. And we'll test it real quick one more time with the update done. Wow. So cupping the speakers for the downward firing speakers really helps boost the audio when you cup it. So that's what pretty interesting. It went up like 3 to 5 decibels just by cupping the sides there. So if you really want louder music, you could do something to get it to bounce better. But yeah, I don't think. Yeah, only 81 decibels on the speakers out of the box. I definitely feel like they could have been louder. You know, I don't know, through software or whatever. Last year's, I felt like went to like 85, 87 decibels in the exact same test. So overall, the speaker quality is still very, very good. But I feel like the driver just needs to boost the total volume somehow. I don't know. I know that whenever I watch things like Netflix or other types of streaming inside of a browser, I use a speaker boost extension that helps boost the speakers to make them louder. All right, so we're going to do our fan noise testing next with 3D Mark. And then we'll do our game testing. Why don't you do the Legion 5i Gen 10? I totally want to. Just waiting for Lenovo to send that. You know, if Lenovo will send me one, I will test it for them. All right. Dope. Okay, so we're going to start with silent mode, move to performance turbo, and then manual mode with max fans. So we're going to see how loud these fans are. Gonna have to restart this to get the overlay going. Ryuk says, does the Core Ultra 9 275HX temperature go above 90 plus during games always? Not necessarily always, but it's going to be very, very common to have it go that high. All right, so we're in silent mode. We're looking at a 46 decibel baseline. Looks like we're missing our CPU power, so I'm going to put that in here. And CPU effective clock as well. All right, so let's take a look. So silent mode is right now completely quiet to me. I cannot hear anything from the laptop fans. 45 decibel or 45 watts on the GPU, the 5070 Ti, 950 clock speed, 10 watts to that Ryzen AI 9 HX370. Very low clock speed as well, only 650 effective clock. Let's see here. Maybe there's a better effective clock to use. I want to make sure that we're using the highest effective clock if possible. You can see the actual top clock is 1.2, 1.5 gigahertz. You can see this is the primary core. It's going to move around though. So, but you can see we're getting 1.5 gigahertz right now on that. Temperatures, we don't have temperatures as well. We got to get temperatures for the CPU. CPU core temps. $70 degrees on the CPU, 72 degrees on the GPU, and 45 watts, 13 watts. So a total about 60 watts going through the system. That is very good overall temps for the wattage in the 14-inch chassis. Gonna let you play casual games, lighter weight games, pretty much no problem. On silent mode, let's see how loud it is. Again, basically this is completely quiet to my ears. I'm hearing the G16 much more than the G14 right now. All the way down to about 46.5 decibels. Let's switch it up and go to performance mode in Armory Crate. All right, so here is performance mode in Armory Crate. We're looking at 93, 94. Let me also raise the back of the laptop up. That silent mode was without the laptop raised in the back, but it was still excellent. So the rest of the test will have the back raised. Okay, so we're definitely getting some spicier GPU temps now that we're doing 95 watts to the GPU. That's going to boost our clock up to 1900 megahertz. Our CPU is doing 74 degrees on the CPU, 15 watts of power going through that CPU, so very low power still on the CPU. 95 watts total means we're doing about 110 watts of the system power. And we are below the GPU thermal throttle, which would be 87 degrees. But I'm definitely hearing the G14 fans now. They've ramped up quite a bit. Let's give it another 30 seconds or so, and we'll see how loud the fans are on the decibel meter. Right around 51 decibels in performance mode. That's very reasonably quiet, but honestly, it's a little bit louder than I thought for performance mode. But this is also very high wattage and very good performance for performance mode. So performance mode will basically play everything that you want, probably on higher settings too, but not as high of FPS as what turbo mode would, which we're going to test turbo mode now. So turbo mode, our CPU wattage is going from 15 to 20 now. GPU wattage went up to 100 and 102, 103. Our boost clock went from 1900 to 1980, now 2000. But we're also very close to the thermal throttle threshold on the GPU. 85 degrees, you know, makes you kind of wonder what if they did put a vapor chamber in here. Okay, we hit max thermal throttle. We hit 87 degrees there. So 107 watts with turbo mode is resulting in a thermal throttle on the G14 on the GPU. Still excellent performance, but it's within the safe round. It's within the safe range, but it's also like, you know, we're thermal soaking this 14-inch laptop, and it's going to end up resulting in like slightly reduced power and clock speed since we're hitting that thermal limit. This is where like having a laptop cooler under your laptop would probably benefit you and give you better performance so that you can hit higher clock speeds and power limits consistently. All right, so let's see how loud the fans are. This should be close to max fan, I would think, right? Given the fact that we're thermal throttling. Let's see how loud they are. 53 decibels for turbo mode. Let's go ahead and see how loud they are for manual mode. So manual mode, max fans with no overclock. Let's upgrade that to the max. Let's apply. Yes. I can definitely hear the fans ramping up some more. Pretty significant ramp up. The CPU is now taking 30 watts, 38 watts. So we're getting a lot more CPU performance when we don't really need it. So that's kind of not good for manual mode. Turbo mode would probably give us better performance given that it prioritized the CPU. Sorry, turbo mode prioritized the GPU. Manual mode now is prioritizing the CPU wattage, and that's, I don't know, going to end up resulting in a little bit less performance. CPU temperatures are good. GPU temperatures have come down a lot. They were at 87, now they're coming down to 81. All right, so let's go ahead and back this out, and let's see how loud it is now. "59 decibels for a 14-inch laptop, that's pretty insane. Very, very loud. Temperatures are so much better though in manual mode. And obviously CPU bound gaming performance is going to be a lot better as well. Okay. So there's your fan mode testing. Let's get into some game testing. I'm going to quickly just double check to make sure we didn't forget anything. Nope, I don't think so. Time to get into Baldur's Gate 3 and see how we run. Choro Louis says, my Strix G16 2025 Intel didn't get any benefit from the cooling pad. I don't know why. My guess is that it's because you were not thermal throttling out of the box. So you probably already had good temperatures, and when you added the cooling pad, you just reduced your temperatures, but that doesn't give you any additional performance because you already were reaching max performance most likely. So that would be the reason why you're probably not getting any benefit. But you are getting a benefit that you're getting lower temperatures. That's a good thing, but you just don't get the benefit of improved performance like you would in the G14, because the G14 is very limited thermally compared to the thick laptops. Like, this is pushing the maximum possible theoretical performance for a 14-inch laptop. And that's like, it's a good thing if that's what you want. And I mean, if you want a high performance gaming laptop, then the G14 is going to be a lot better option than the vast majority of laptops out there. Let's go ahead and think down this one more stop for better color. And now I'm going to turn my air conditioner back on and my fan back on so I don't overheat. Good? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, so for all of our game testing today, we will be testing at QHD resolution, even though it's technically not quite the full resolution of the laptop. And the reason for this is I'm going to be doing a comparison benchmark analysis versus the Zephyrus G14, which has this same resolution. So everything will be tested at QHD plus resolution, 2560 by 1600. DLSS is on quality, ultra settings. Let's load into the game. Let me just make sure everything is shut down. Looks good. And let's get frame view out as well. Trying to get the screen to be the right brightness so it's not blowing out the colors. Okay. All right. Okay, so manual fan mode. Let's just let this run for like 10 seconds here and give us an average FPS. And then I'm gonna switch to turbo mode and see what we get. So right now we're getting 199, 149, okay? Let's switch to turbo mode. Well, here we can do silent mode, let's see. Let's see what we get in each mode real quick. A quick test to see performance in each mode. So we're in silent mode. It's taking a little while to turn everything down lower. So just waiting for silent mode to fully kick in. I mean, is this the F? Is this cannot be accurate, right? 80, 25. Because that's so much. Okay, so now we're in silent mode. There. Okay, so silent mode is giving us 120 FPS with 107 for our 1% low. 25 watts to the CPU. Okay. We're still hitting max refresh rate on the screens, 120 hertz display, so that's fantastic. Let's go to performance mode. So performance mode will jump us up. Now we're at 80 watts to the GPU, 23 watts to the CPU, and performance mode is giving us 185, 143. All right. That seems like a nice blend of performance to fan profile mode. Turbo mode, let's chop to turbo mode. So Baldur's Gate 3, you know, we're not quite being like we're being a bit more focused on CPU for Baldur's Gate 3 rather than pure GPU performance. So I think manual mode will give us the best average FPS. So 190. I'm gonna let turbo mode kind of average out here for a moment here. But 190, 141 for turbo mode, 90 watts to the GPU, 31 watts to the CPU, 120 watts total thermal envelope, pretty good. Let's go to manual mode, and this should give us the most CPU performance, which should boost our frame rate just a little bit higher. Because we were getting 99, 199, 149 last time. Once manual mode fully kicked in. Okay, so we do a new average. Yeah, we're getting just a bit more FPS in manual mode, but not like a huge difference. 195, 144. All right, so that gives you an idea. Let's see here. I'm going to turn this a little bit brighter. Okay. All right, so we're going to start our benchmark now. 3, 2, 1. 1% lows are looking really good. Average FPS 171 is excellent. 68 FPS for a 1% low is quite good. Doing about 35, 40 watts to the CPU. And so far, no hard stutters at all, which is great. That shows us that the AMD RAM and CPU and GPU connection is excellent with no hard bottleneck hitting, which is really what you want to see. Because Baldur's Gate 3 theoretically, oftentimes has like a moment of hesitation, hard hits, when you are in when you jump between characters. In particular, Baldur's Gate 3 suffers those hard stutters. So, okay, so there's our average 174, 101, and that's excellent overall. I'm very curious to see how this lines up with the Zephyrus G14 5070 Ti. But that's great overall performance. Taking a look at our temperatures, 78 on the GPU, 78 on the CPU. So not thermal throttling on either one. Looking good, at least in manual mode. The wrist rest right now is very, very warm. Okay, Expedition 33. Here we go. What's up, Mr. Tax? Welcome to the stream. Don't you think that it's better to navigate temps with no air conditioning? Well, I want to make sure that all my testing is with a very similar ambient room temperature so that the testing is consistent across different laptops and testing, and there's no variation or very little variation to the room temperature. It depends a lot on the cooler. I don't think the cheap cooling pads help anything, to be honest. You got to use Razer's or Lano's cooling pad. Yeah, those ones, or the IATS GT500. Those ones should do a lot better, generally speaking. I'm going to turn the sound down. Continue. Here, yeah, okay. I think we'll be doing a dedicated test for the Lano cooling pad here soon. I think they're going to send it to me. I'm actually really excited to test it. So Expedition 33, if you haven't played it, it's an incredible single-player storytelling game. A little bit sad, but really beautifully written, very interesting and engaging gameplay. Let's check our graphics settings. So we're on Epic graphics settings, DLSS on quality, frame generation, we'll set it to disable for now. Okay, so no frame gen. Right now it's very playable at 48 FPS, but and it's very responsive, but it's also, I mean, this is like kind of the baseline level of FPS I'd probably want to have a decent experience. I'd really rather have more like 90 in this game. So, okay. Let me turn on frame view. So we can have that information in the top left corner as well. Hopefully it pops up. There we go. Nice. Okay. So there we go. So we'll go ahead and do this little benchmark run. 45 with 41 for our 1% lows right now is very good. I wouldn't say I'm saying 1% lows being very little variation to the average is very good. I think that in general, like I said, I would probably want more FPS. So I think a lot of gamers would be happy with this level of FPS, but like I said, I would target 90 for a game like this. At least 60 probably. So that means probably setting the graphics down to like high or medium. And I really like DLAA in this game because hair looks way better with DLAA enabled. Let's see, what is medium with DLAA? That gives us 45, so I don't know. And then, I don't know, let's see if we throw on frame gen, how does that look? So with frame gen, we're doing 80, 79, 80. I don't know, I might play around this. It definitely looks way better with frame gen. It's way smoother with frame gen, but it's gonna be a lot more stutteriness going on, you know? So, okay. Let's go back to the settings. Back to Epic and DLSS on quality, which is what we set for our Zephyrus G14. All right, let's go ahead and turn off this. Let's go F10. Okay, let's see our frame gen. I want it to be F10 for our benchmarking key. Okay, so right now we're on Epic DLSS on quality. Just double check. Epic DLSS on quality with frame gen at 2x. Let's see what kind of FPS we're talking now. Keep in mind the 1% lows may be bugged, so we're going to do our final evaluation with the frame gen numbers in the top left for this frame gen test. You have to do that with frame gen. Boom, boom. All right, so we're going to walk. GPU wattage right now doing 95, CPU wattage 25. So, I mean, theoretically, you know, if you had a thick, big machine that could do 140 watts to the GPU right now, that would definitely be a lot better, obviously. Okay, so let's see what our final number, 74.55 for our 1% low. So very good performance, though frame gen I typically try to target closer to 90 FPS if possible, because it has a lot less artifacting. But this definitely is a lot smoother gameplay experience. And the latency is a lot better too when you can get to 90 with a frame gen enabled. So there's Expedition 33. Certainly going to be able to be playable on high settings. It's just going to, you know, you might want to fiddle with some shadows or turn certain demanding settings down if you want to get closer to the 90 FPS mark. Okay, so Counter-Strike 2 will be done on the low preset. Expedition 33 is very hard to run like Wukong. Yeah, Expedition 33 is the most demanding game I've tested recently. I think it's the most demanding game out of the games we're testing today. So, Parmeet Singh says, I was literally just watching your 2024 Zephyrus G14 video and I got the notification on this one. That's some pretty good timing. LOL. Okay, so low preset. Let me make sure, I need to make sure our settings are exactly the same as the G16 tests were done. QHD plus low. Let's go to the live. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure we tested this. Set it to low and full screen. Okay, yeah. So this means FSR is on balance mode and full screen resolution 2560 by 1600. We're going to do FPS benchmark. Whoa. That's a lot of flashing right there. It may have crashed, I don't know. It was in the middle of loading and I alt-tabbed and it's a full screen game, so I think that's just, did not like that. Let's restart Counter-Strike. So if you're enjoying this live stream, please drop a like. And if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. We've got the Asus TUF F16, Asus TUF A16, Xbox Ally X for upcoming tests. Full screen, advanced video, low, good, play, workshop, FPS benchmark. Okay, go. Okay, we have to. Never mind. I think we're doing all right. Good. All right. Wow. 400 FPS right now. 359, 240, 290, 255. It is cranking on this FPS. Way higher than the 120 hertz refresh rate. One % low seems to be about 130 right now. 106, 120. So 1% lows are even above the screen's refresh rate at 120. And this is an OLED display as well, so it's going to be very high response rate. Or like a very low response rate in terms of like total milliseconds. So should be a very responsive display. It should be excellent for Counter-Strike, though I wish it was 240 hertz refresh rate. I really want to turn off FSR for these tests. So with that in mind, I'm probably going to run this back one more time with FSR turned off. So that way it's running native resolution. And let's see what our final score is here. Okay, so 329.6, 120 for our 1% low. Let's run this back with FSR disabled. Okay. So we have FSR turned off now, and we'll run it one more time to see. I'm actually curious to see what the performance is like now that FSR is turned off. I think obviously the image quality will be much better, I think, on native. In addition, I think the FPS won't be that different. So just in general, I think I should just test this with FSR disabled. Like our average FPS appears to be in a similar ballpark, 300 to 400 FPS. So still bouncing around that 330, 40 FPS average that we had last time. And you know, image clarity is definitely better without FSR. So I like that better. Let me check chat. Had to return my Asus TUF F15 after abnormal temperature issues. Thankfully, they gave you a refund. Well, that's good. At least they stood by their product. Who gave you a refund? Was it the retailer or Asus themselves? I'm not trusting Asus as a brand anymore. Complete trauma. I mean, that's totally fine. Everyone gets bad experiences with certain brands. I think that's a very normal thing to happen. But at least Asus, generally speaking, stands by their products and I think has good intentions, generally speaking. And especially lately, they've been standing by their products even more after they got kind of some flack, you know, for not standing by their products, as well as I think they should have. And so now they are doing, I think, the right thing and refunding people and improving their support. Okay, so without FSR, we got just a little bit less, 322.7 FPS and 122 for our 1% lows. So those are some really good numbers still, even with FSR disabled. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Cyberpunk 2077. Doom Dark Ages, God of War, Hogwarts Legacy, Path of Exile, Starfield, and The Witcher 3 are on the testing docket still for today. The retailer, gotcha. I don't think any laptop is usable without a proper cooling pad. I mean, I don't know about that. I would say usable is, I mean, obviously you can use a laptop without a cooling pad. That's certainly not true. The bigger issue, of course, is what issues, you know, how much more performance can you get with a cooling pad? And certain laptops especially can get nice performance boosts from a cooling pad. So, but I feel you, there's obviously some laptops are going to struggle with thermal throttling more than others. Like the G14, it's a small chassis. We're maximizing the possible performance on it in a tiny thermal envelope. So a cooling pad, I think, is far more likely to help. All right, so we're doing ultra settings with ray tracing on ultra, DLSS on quality with the neural network, which actually is a little bit lower performance. And then frame generation is on 2x. So these are the settings that we're testing in Cyberpunk. Technically, you can optimize better using the transformer model, which uses a little less VRAM and gives you a little more FPS. And I would probably recommend DLAA if possible. But let's see how we do with these settings here. Okay. So we're going to do frame view test on this for our average to get our 1% low and total averages as accurate as possible. Okay, so we've got a new average started. 1% low will be bugged with Afterburner, so that's why we're using frame view, which you currently cannot see because you're benchmarking, you can't see it. 95 watts to the GPU, 26 watts to the CPU. GPU temp is only at 73, CPU temp is at 71. So excellent initial temperatures. VRAM right now is at 9.3 gigs, which is good. If you had a 5070 or 5060, you only have 8 gigs VRAM, so you're going to be a lot more limited there. You might run into VRAM stuttering at QHD resolutions. 79 FPS for our average, which, like I said, when I'm doing frame gen, I prefer to hit 90 FPS. So I would tweak these settings some more if I was going to be playing on this laptop. We're going to stop the benchmark for frame view now. And let's see, 79 FPS, 57 for a 1% low for frame view. And so that's excellent. Overall performance, it's just, I would go in here and change something, maybe go to balanced, or maybe just turn off ray tracing if possible. And then, Cyberpunk ray tracing is kind of cool, I guess. I would adjust something to get our FPS over 90 if I'm going to use frame gen. But without a doubt, Cyberpunk will have playable frame rates easily. All right, Doom Dark Ages. So this is the new Doom. We're going to be testing with DLSS on quality, frame gen on 2x, and ray tracing on ultra. And we're going to be running through the initial starting area, which is, I believe, how I tested the G16. That's interesting that you want SSD temperatures and RAM temperatures, TurkeyGo. That might be an interesting. I'm looking to potentially revamp my UI, what it shows. And I'm looking into options right now, so I might end up adjusting things. So 2560 by 1600 for our resolution, 120 hertz refresh rate with VSync off. DLSS on quality, frame generation on 2x, path tracing is off. Overall slider should be Ultra Nightmare. Apply, yes. Okay, so basically max, not quite max settings, but extremely high level of settings. Let's see what kind of FPS we get. Okay, so Doom Dark Ages, 105 FPS average. 1% lows are currently bugged, showing us a half rate. Frame view up here showing us 97 sometimes for 1% lows. Sometimes it goes a bit lower, but yeah, we're going to be using the frame view number. So we're going to start by just running through the startup area until we get to the end until we get to the wall, basically. It's like a good 45-second run through. Here we go. So 110 FPS. We're not going to kill anything here, just so we can climb. And we want to keep everything consistent. We might end up having to retest the Zephyrus G14 for the comparison, for the side-by-side comparison. Okay, no, I don't think we will have to. This looks correct. All right. So there it is. Here's our evaluation. 101 average FPS, 35 for a 1% low, which is interesting because Afterburner got 46. I think my battery and my mouse just ran out of juice. Okay. There we go. Okay. So this is great. I mean, overall performance is good enough, even on Ultra Nightmare, with ray tracing enabled. We're hitting above 90 FPS, at least in this run-through area. I'm not curious if more advanced areas would suffer more, but yeah, good enough for now. And I think it demonstrates that we're in a great overall performance state for Doom Dark Ages. You know, if you need a little more FPS, you can just turn a couple settings down and boost your FPS dramatically, you know? So overall, it's good. The temperatures for the G14 are going to be pretty good in most games. And when you're running, you know, especially if you really want to have good temperatures on the G14, you're going to want to set an FPS limit to 120 FPS because you have an OLED 120 hertz in here, so you don't need to go to 150, 100, and 200 FPS or whatever. You're just working your system in overkill. So your temperatures could get way better, at least in games that can easily get more than 120 FPS. Okay, so currently God of War is giving us the wrong FPS. Or sorry, the wrong resolution. So we're going to need to set our Windows resolution. Like I said, I'm trying to do a like-for-like FPS comparison with the Zephyrus G14. So we're making sure all our benchmarks pair up exactly with the G16's resolution of 2560 by 1600. Because we're going to do a 5070 Ti, 5070 Ti benchmark analysis once all of this is said and done. Okay. Why don't you review a MacBook, sir? It'd be good to see your perspective on them, especially with the latest M4 Air and M5 Pro. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that. I was like, I should go get a MacBook Pro M5 and do a side-by-side with the G14 here. I think that would be a very interesting comparison. So no frame gen this time, so we're just trying to target like above, I don't know, 80, 90 FPS or whatever. And that's pretty much the entire goal, you know. Just smooth gameplay, and it doesn't necessarily have to be 90, but just as long as it's smooth. Okay, so here we go. We're just gonna go ahead and go for it now. 80 FPS right now, 73 for a 1% low is really good. 93 watts to the GPU, 22 watts to the CPU. Temperatures are in the mid 70s. I mean, that's rocking. 84 FPS, 68 for a 1% low. Yeah, this is going to be a great gaming experience in God of War. No issues. Love it. All right. Hogwarts Legacy. Let's load that sucker up. Their hardware is the most smartest. Well, I got to say that the way you phrased that was the most smartest as well. Just kidding. I'm an English major, so I'm like double superlative. Okay. Genio says to get more than the useless 8 gig VRAM, you have to pay $2,500 for the 5070 Ti laptop. I think it's actually $23.99 for the retail price for the 5070 Ti for the G14. I think. At least that was the recent price we saw. But yeah, and I would not say that 8 gigs of VRAM is useless. It's just certain handful of games it's going to struggle. So, but the vast majority of games still play fine on 8 gigs of VRAM, even at QHD resolution. But to call it useless at 8 gigs is kind of misleading. Obviously, I prefer 12 gigs and recommend 12 gigs though. So that you don't have to do nearly as much graphical tweaking, and future proofing is far more realistic on 12 gigs of VRAM, like for sure. Frame view is not loading up right now, which is a problem. Sometimes frame view does not like Hogwarts Legacy for some reason. Let me make sure we're in the right. Are we in the right resolution? 2560 by 1600. Yes, we are. I don't know what to do. Maybe we can restart Hogwarts. We'll try restarting Hogwarts once and see if that fixes frame view. If not, we're just going to test anyway. But you can see our FPS average in Hogwarts over 100, which is quite good. Turkey go, English is not my first native language, so cut me some slack. You're absolutely right. My bad. I don't mean to be mean at all. You have very good English. If for someone who's learning second language, I understand everything you're saying, man. I appreciate you. H3981841. Appreciate your honesty, sir, but I was asking for, which games could be playable and so on. Okay. So MacBooks. So let's hear your question. Okay. Okay, so which games will be playable on an M4 Pro versus the G14? Yeah, testing the gameplay, finding some games that can run on both systems and testing performance for games, and then also, some general testing too, like how good is it for video editing, battery life, stuff like that, Those kinds of comparisons would be very enlightening, I think. Hey, we got frame view up here working now. Good, good. Okay, here we go. So running through Hogsmeade, the most difficult area, or basically the most difficult area, most demanding area of this game. The only other area is like the actual castle. It's another demanding area. But let's see what we got for our average. 118.44 for a 1% low. A little bit low on the 1% low side, but it's still pretty good, and no hard stutters, which is like what gets us down to 15 FPS for 1% low or something, So overall, very impressive Hogwarts performance. We'll have to see how that stacks up to the G14. Next, we have Path of Exile 2, which has been my latest obsession. So I've been playing a good amount of Path of Exile. You can see I've got 100 hours of game time in it. I've leveled up about 200 levels worth of character, but my highest character is only level 61. I have actually 2 accounts for this too. I played on my other Steam account for a while as well, and then switched to this one. But very, very fun gameplay, grindy game, action adventure game that has really good voice acting and really good graphics. So This is a game that if you set the graphics to be very high, it's going to be very difficult to run this game at max frame rate. Let's see what our settings are here. VSync off, dynamic resolution off, upscale mode, DLSS on quality. I should probably test this without my pet out because my pet is going to cause variations to the frame rate. I don't know. Right now, my mouse is tweaking out, so let me switch the battery on this. Looks like my bug minion is fighting dudes. My mouse is still not mousing. Okay, now it's mousing. Okay. So what I would like to do is go to the same beginner area and kind of run through it as like the benchmark. So maybe like the Act 1 Clearfell area, or maybe the Grellwood. I think the Grellwood's really cool. Let's do Grellwood. And then for the actual test, we'll just say run in a straight line shooting off my lightning. Say up in a certain direction maybe is the best choice. And let me disable my guy so that it's more realistic. Okay. All right, and let's check our video options out all the way here. So I want DLSS on quality. Let's see if we can do that. And we'll do highest possible settings. All right, I believe these are all maxed out possible settings with DLSS on quality, 2560 by 1600. And I have not tested the G16 in this game at all yet, so I'll have to redo that anyway. Okay, so we're just going to run straight vertically upward, throwing out our spears backward. All right, 3, 2, 1, here we go. And we'll end up having guys chasing us here eventually. There they are. And these guys will give us some nice... Oh, this is running into the edge of the wall here. I can't go up. So the problem, maybe we got to do the Clearfell. Because the Clearfell has a actual preset path. So one thing that's really cool about this game is that sometimes the maps are randomized. So every time you play through the map, it'll be a little bit different. Like each element of the map will be different. So, so let's go running over here to the Clearfell camp. I think this is going to be the better benchmarking area because you can always run to the right pretty much every time. Okay. And so we'll just run up and to the right. And I'm not even going to attack. I'll dodge when I need to, and just let people follow me, and the guys will build up, and this will give us a nice FPS average range for what people can expect. We'll just go for until we run into the wall or something over here. And this will be a nice little medium benchmark. Okay, so 7663 for Path of Exile. Very, very playable, very smooth gameplay. And I didn't have any major issues. My Zephyrus G14, oddly enough, had problems with this game. It had like lagging problems, like the network or something would go out every 10, 15 seconds, it seemed like. So I don't know if it's been fixed yet. I haven't tested it in a week or two. So are you excited for GTA 6? Yeah. I enjoy the GTA games. And then I play them for like a week or two, and then I get tired of them and I stop playing them. But I actually grinded GTA 5 online for like a month or two and unlocked like the most expensive cars and stuff. And then I was like, okay, I'm good now. But yeah, okay, dynamic resolution off. Render scale 67%, which means DLSS is on quality. We want ultra. Render scale, we gotta go back to 67%. All right, upscaling. DLSS on quality, frame generation on. And I believe this was bugged last time we tried this, but let's see if it's not bugged now. We might need to switch to FSR to get frame gen to work properly. Turkago says, but it looks smooth. Okay. Clustered particles scenarios kind of makes stutter limits more obvious. But it looks smooth and better than 80% of the laptops of previous generations, so that's a win. Yeah, okay. All right, so here we are. I think everything's working properly. So I think we can test like this. Let me see the G16. Did we end up using FSR or not? Let's see. Yeah, DLSS quality, frame gen on. Okay, I think this is how we tested it. All right, and away we go. $108 average FPS, 83 for a 1% low. This is one of the more busy settlements in the game with a lot of NPCs, so it's a really good test. You'll generally get way better FPS in Starfield in the spaceships and in the barren alien planets and stuff. So the NPCs can cause some stuttering or CPU demand. So this is a very good area to test. Okay, 99, or I guess we got 100 FPS, 75 for a 1% low, which means we're in like the sweet spot. And yeah, it's playing great. We're just leveling up, killing all the NPCs. It looks good. No issues. Gameplay's smooth. Frame gen seems to be working just fine. And we're getting above 90 FPS, so it's very smooth and very good gameplay experience. Oh, these guys are all super easy to kill. Okay, nice. All right, Witcher 3. Let's rock it. Question is, okay, the other question you said, how do you think the RTX 5000 series are going to perform on it? And that's a question I cannot answer. GTA 6 is a huge wild mark. Like, we don't know. It could be, GTA 6 is a huge wild card. We don't know if it's going to be like an insanely difficult game to run or very optimized. But I would be shocked if we can't at least get 60 FPS with DLSS on balanced on a laptop like this G14. Like lower end 5060s, you might end up having to play on lower settings, but I would be shocked if it wasn't very, very playable and very smooth at least. Okay, so frame gen on 2560 by 1600 full screen. let's go into it now. Is this laptop flicker free? I have not noticed any flickering. I have noticed some flicker on my Zephyrus G14. I think it's from the NVIDIA driver. It like causes sometimes some browser windows to flicker over some other windows. But generally speaking, I have not noticed any flicker at all on the G14. I'm not sure if you're talking about a specific instance of flicker or not, so I don't know. Okay, so it looks like we're hitting about 80 FPS with frame generation turned on, so I probably want to, like I said, Witcher 3, I'll just turn off frame gen. And, sorry, I would turn off ray tracing, because this game was not originally designed to have ray tracing, and the default shadow engine I think is better than the ray tracing engine. Anyway, okay, so we're gonna test our FPS. 3, 2, 1, here we go. .78 FPS, 65 for 1% lows, 95 watts to the GPU, generally speaking. This is right on the edge of you might want to turn down the settings or not. Obviously, you could play with this 86 FPS, but I do target over 90. So 86 FPS, 67 for 1% low, 75 degrees, 78 degrees on the CPU. VRAM's at 9 gigs. Game's gonna be very playable. If you just pop into the options, go to graphics, flip off ray tracing, which is my recommended setting, and now 170 FPS. And the game, I think, looks better. So this is what I would do if you're playing The Witcher 3 and you want to really maximize your time and your performance. Let me just make sure the display is on the right setting. Yes, okay. So yeah, that is The Witcher 3, and it's going to be extremely playable, especially with ray tracing off. With ray tracing on, it's right on the edge of maybe you want to turn something down to get perfect playability, but overall, excellent. Excellent game, highly recommended, and it was recently redone. So let's switch this into let's just go to performance mode, unplug everything, and let's do our final summary review. Okay, so here is the final summary. What's up, and welcome to my final summary review for the Zephyrus G14. Let's let the fans ramp down a little bit. Like, these suckers are going. In manual fan mode, we're talking 59 decibels. In a 14-inch laptop, that's pretty insanely loud fans. Turbo fan mode, 53 decibels. Performance mode, 51 decibels. And silent mode, only 46 decibels. So yeah, performance mode, though, is basically going to be giving you, oh, we got our light flickering behind us. Here, hold on. I knew this might happen. All right, just got to turn that light off for now. Okay. So, what's up, and welcome to my final summary review for the Zephyrus G14. Let's just give a nice little end cap to all of our testing for today. There was basically 0 issues found during testing. We had 1 crash in Counter-Strike 2, but that was probably my fault. We're going to be doing a benchmark analysis comparison between the G14 5070 Ti and the Zephyrus G16 5070 Ti soon, so be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on that analysis. How much more performance do you get with the bigger chassis? Mr. Rocky is meow meowing. And yeah, okay, sorry for the interruption there. Can you keep them over there? Yeah. Thank you, baby. Okay. So the top competitors to this is probably the Blade 14, but okay, let me start that again. So the top competitors for the Zephyrus G14 is basically no one if you want a 5070 Ti or 5080 in a 14-inch chassis. No other laptops currently offer that in any company. This is the only one in a 14-inch category. That said, if you want a 5060 or 5070 or 5050, there's a lot of competition out there. Or if you want to spend less money, you can certainly go for an RTX 4060, 4070, or the last gen 4080 or 4090 versions of the G14. Those are still very good laptops. The 5070 Ti for 2025 and 5080 are going to be the highest performing gaming laptops that you can get pretty much. Though the 4090 laptop G14 actually may be pretty competitive to the 5080 gaming laptop. Now, in terms of performance, you're only going to get maybe 5 to 10% more performance from the 5080 GPU because this is such a GPU TDP limited chassis. It's so thin, it's so light, and you really got to run those fans if you want to get to the peak levels of performance without any thermal throttling and having good temperatures on a consistent basis. And that's going to make it pretty loud. Now, if you're okay with not hitting maximum performance, you can get a nice blend of temperatures and performance with this machine. And you have 12 cores, 24 threads in the CPU with the Ryzen AI 9 here. So, I mean, there's a lot to love about this laptop. It's portable, it's thin, it's light, it's got a powerful enough CPU to do basically everything you need, video editing, modeling, all of that. It's just not going to be quite as fast as higher core and thread count and higher, especially total TDP to the CPU component as like thicker laptops, because thicker laptops can just push more wattage to the CPU and the GPU, giving you more performance. So overall though, I mean, in all the tests we had today, this thing performed adequately, especially if you're just willing to tweak a couple of settings. You can get excellent frame rates in all of the modern titles. For the flex test, this was extremely rigid. We're talking under 5 pounds total carry weight for the adapter and laptop. I believe it was 4.6 pounds total and 3.46 pounds for the laptop itself. Keyboard is excellent. Touchpad is excellent. The speakers are very high quality with a lot of bass and good mids and highs, but the total volume is not nearly as loud as the Zephyrus G16 currently, though I felt like the 2024 version was louder for some reason. Like it was louder than the G16 with the G14 last time. I don't know what's going on. Probably just a software bug. And I'm sure you could boost the total volume with like downloading some third-party plugin or something to get louder total volume on the speakers here without that big of an issue. Windows Hello has worked flawlessly on this laptop. Armory Crate, MyASUS has worked flawlessly in my experience so far. And the NVIDIA drivers have been extremely stable with this laptop with no crashing and no issues in all the general use testing that I did for about a month before doing this live stream. Now, the Zephyrus G16 on the other hand, I've had constant crashes over the last 2 months using it until I rolled back the NVIDIA driver to an old driver, which I can quickly look it up, which version the driver is. I should be able to look it up. NVIDIA control panel. Interesting. NVIDIA app. Let's see if we can get this thing to load real quick. I want to make sure I give you the right driver version. But the latest current NVIDIA driver does not work properly with the Zephyrus G16 2025. And that was not true for the 5090 version. I was rocking the 5090 and 5080 versions, and that one you actually wanted to use the latest driver because the older driver messed it up. The 5070 Ti version, though, you had to roll back to an old driver to stop the crashing. So just know that if you get the Zephyrus G16, you want to make sure you have the right driver or you're going to have a bad time. Like it was crashing more than once in a 24-hour period. Wow. Currently, so it currently says I have no driver installed. I obviously do have a driver installed though. And I got it directly from Asus in a troubleshooting. Let me pull it up. So the driver is 32.0.15.7705. That's the one that works flawlessly with the Zephyrus G16 5070 Ti. Okay, anyway, that's not related to this too much, but just know that I've had no issues with the G14, perfect stability with the 5070 Ti on the latest drivers and the latest BIOS, so that's good. Keyboard is excellent on here, lots of functionality. Overall, I wish the backlight was better. That's my main gripe with it. They've not had a good backlight on the keyboard the entire time they've had this laptop out. I don't understand. How is it that hard to fix the keyboard backlight on this laptop? Come on, Asus, you can do better on the keyboard backlight. That's one of my main criticisms of the chassis. The touchpad on this is glass. It's excellent. It's large for a 14-inch laptop especially. Very, very good. Display brightness was 372 nits, which is good for an OLED. Not great necessarily, but still plenty bright and vibrant. 120 hertz refresh rate. I wish this was 240, but 120 hertz on an OLED is still very playable and very usable and very good. 864 RAM speed was far above average, especially for the write speed. It was very, very good, but it was like, I think 90, 110, and 90 with a 107 nanosecond response time, which was very good. Blender benchmark was phenomenal for the 5070 Ti. CrystalDiskMark was very good with 6,500 read and 5.8 write, I think. So very good overall SSD speeds. Cinebench R23 and R24 scores were also excellent. So I'm just giving you the brief summary here. You can go back into the timestamps down below if you want to see the individual benchmarks, or we'll edit them in when we put the final video together. I already went over the speaker. So speakers on this were very good, but not as loud as I wanted. Last time I tested this, they were pushing the decibel meter up to like 87 or 90 decibels. This time I only saw like 81, 83 decibels, unless I cupped the speakers on the left and right side, and then the decibel meter shot up to like 85, 86. So I would probably try to boost the overall volume on these speakers somehow if they're not loud enough for you. TimeSpy score was 15.8 thousand for the GPU, 10,200 for the CPU. Very good GPU score for a 14-inch laptop. Fan noise, silent mode 46 decibels, performance mode 51 decibels with like 85 watts to the GPU. So you're going to be able to basically play everything in performance mode. So if you're wanting medium fan noise, performance mode is the way to go. Silent mode is basically inaudible, but you're not going to be able to play modern high performance games at high frame rates very well in silent mode, but older titles, silent mode is going to be great. Turbo and max fan mode really help amp the performance by another 10% or so above performance mode and give you much better temperatures in manual mode. But then the fan noise goes up to 59 decibels, which is just insanely loud for a 14-inch laptop. So you're going to want a really good pair of headphones, or maybe consider getting a laptop cooler for this laptop if you want to have a great audio experience while having great temperatures. And speaking of temperatures, the wrist rest on this guy, it gets spicy. It gets very warm to the touch. I wouldn't say hot to the point where it's uncomfortable, but it's very warm. And if you're already a warm person like me, then it could be really annoying getting extra heat through your wrist. So you could use an external keyboard to counter this, you could use a gamepad to counter this, or you could use the laptop like this, where you keep your wrist off of the wrist rest and rest it instead on the table, or I don't know, buy a little wrist rest pad to separate your wrist from the wrist rest to keep the heat off of your hand. In all the games we tested today, we had excellent frame rates. I would say Expedition 33 is the one that we struggled the most, only about 45 FPS in Expedition 33, on epic settings, of course. So you're gonna just have to turn some settings down if you wanna push the FPS higher. Now, 45 is certainly playable, but that's like the bare minimum to have a great gaming experience. And that's without frame gen. You turn on frame gen, I think we were doing like 70. So, but 70 is not above 90. Like if I'm gonna use frame gen, I really wanna get above 90. And I also, with Expedition 33, I really want DLAA enabled because hair looks really weird if you don't have DLAA enabled. So overall, in like 99% of games, you're going to be able to just load it up, put it on Ultra, put DLSS on quality, and you're going to have perfect gameplay. But a few of the games, like the most demanding games like Expedition 33, are going to require some fiddling and maybe some settings put down to medium if you want to get ideal frame rates, like above 90 with frame gen or above 60 without frame gen. But pretty much in everything else, it just rocked those games way above the minimum frame rates requirements into super smooth frame rate requirements. And I just want to mention some optimization things. You can download G-Helper if you want to do further optimization. You can also set the screen hertz refresh rate to like an FPS cap of 120 because this is only a 120 hertz screen. So in a lot of the games like Baldur's Gate 3, we're doing 190 FPS, right? 170 FPS on ultra settings. If you set it to 120 hertz refresh rate, in that game, then the GPU CPU load will go down and you'll get even better temperatures while getting the exact same visuals put to your eyes. Because if your GPU is overworking above the screen's refresh rate, it's pretty much pointless, right? So it's, I think, a smart idea to set game max FPS to 120 so that you don't tax the hardware unnecessarily. And that would also help keep the wrist rest at a good temperature level as well. So overall, can I recommend the Zephyrus G14? Yeah, absolutely. It's a phenomenal laptop, especially for a portable gaming laptop. Plus, you got the Ryzen AI9 HX370 in here, and that's a very powerful multi-threaded processor, while at the same time being very good in battery life. You know, you're gonna get 8 to 10 hours in web browsing and like playing movies and games. Watching movies, you're probably looking at more like 4 to 8 hours, depending on how you set up the settings, but probably more like 6 on average. And when you're playing games, if you switch to the integrated GPU for games, then you can get some good gameplay and still have the battery last over 2 hours of video game gameplay. Probably around 2.5, maybe 3 hours at most if you really optimize it. So overall, this is a machine that has great ports, great portability, great performance in the CPU and GPU category, and it's just so dang portable and cute and beautifully designed and great build quality. I mean, there's not much not to love about it. But yeah, would I own a G14? No, because I like a bigger screen. I like at least having 16 inches to see my games, to experience them in a bigger screen, and better speakers. I like having a little bit better speakers because these weren't quite as loud as I would like. And the wrist rest gets really warm, which is a pet peeve of mine. It drives me crazy because I already tend to run hot. And if the wrist rest makes me even hotter, then it's no good. So I can't use a laptop with a hot wrist rest long term. I mean, I could if I had to, but if I don't have to, then I won't. You know, if I could pick a laptop with a cool wrist rest, I'm gonna go for that one, even if it had less performance or whatever. So yeah, overall the G14 is phenomenal, but I'm gonna stick to larger laptops myself because I'm also a big guy. I don't mind carrying extra weight around. So I got my Blade 18 back there. I haven't been using that as much lately because I've mainly been testing the new 2025 laptops, but I'm gonna try to do a 2 years later review on that. I love the Blade 18 still, and the Zephyrus G16 that I'm using now that I have the right driver, it's been fantastic. So that's the laptop I'm gonna use for right now, and yeah, that's where I'm at. So upcoming live streams, we got the Asus TUF A16 and the Asus TUF F16 right here, and the Xbox Ally ROG Ally Xbox X is coming in the mail soon, so we'll do a live stream testing that soon, and then a 5050 Asus TUF laptop is also coming in the mail. And yeah, so lots of live streams coming up in the next couple months. Hope you guys tune into this. I hope you found this helpful. Let me check chat, and then we'll be checking out, or ending the live stream. So thank you so much to everyone that stayed tuned and watched the live stream the whole time. Especially Turkigo, he was here the whole time, dang. Tough love for the G16 on a firmware level, that's weird. Chassis heat isolation, that would be great. Please show us the cat before closing up. Okay, all right, so let me show you the new cat too. I've got I got Rocky and I have Sky now. Come here. And I bet you will not be able to tell them apart the first time you see them because they look almost exactly the same. So the only thing you can really tell to make sure that you know it's Rocky is that Rocky has one bad eye and then Sky has two good eyes. But and adopted them both, and they have a channel showing videos of them if you guys want to check out the cat videos. Anyway, I think we linked to the cat videos down below now. I think if not, we need to add that into the video description. Okay, checking chat one more time. Rocky and Sky, yeah, they are super adorable and they play all the time. Not all the time, but basically every day they chase and wrestle and tussle now and love each other. So I'm really lucky to have them. They're both really great cats. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one. Brandon.